Hi everybody, I'm here today with the Devil's Playground. How are you, Devil's Playground?
You can call me Nigel. I'm good.
You've just told me you're the Devil's Playground, and then he comes out with I can call him Nigel. Oh, I can see you now.
Well, that's my name, but the Devil's Playground is where we live. We live on the Devil's Playground. Yeah.
We've come together today because you're going to talk about the Mandela effect, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but there's a huge backstory to the Devil's Playground. Now, for those that don't know me, I live in China. I've lived in China since the end of 2014. I'm an English teacher in a high school. And I've been here for nearly 7 years. We're not having a second lockdown, right? The guy in China who's the equivalent of Fauci.
We're going in.
Huh?
We're going into it anyway.
Yeah,
we're going into it any time now.
Yeah, I know. We're not having one.
No.
Look, what you've got in the UK. In the UK, you've got Boris Johnson. Johnson is right? There's no way to hide around it. Johnson is called
Nigel.
Huh? What?
Turn the camera off because it's causing lagging.
Okay.
We can see your beautiful face. Everybody's that's it. No, that's me. Everybody can see your beautiful face. So at the bottom.
Right. Okay. You've got Boris Johnson. Johnson is a phallus. You've got Matt Hancock, and then you've got the head of the police, which I forget her first name, but her surname is Dick. So you've got Johnson, Cock, and Dick that are currently basically taking the piss out of everybody in the UK, and they can't see it. Johnson, Cock,
I can.
Hancock, and Dick. Right. Okay. So, in order to get your head around the Mandela effect, we need to go back to the Bible. Now, I am not religious in the slightest way, but I was raised in a Christian household. My parents are church-going, Jesus-loving idiots, basically. So let's go back to the Bible. Genesis 1:1 states, in the beginning, the Elohim, which is plural, created the heavens and the earth. Now that's not what you're going to read in your King James version. But if you go back to the original... Huh?
Is this about the Mandela effect? Is this all about the Mandela effect?
Yeah. Yes. It all goes back to the... This all is connected to the Mandela effect. So we go back to Genesis 1:1, where it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is not true. In the original Hebrew, it says, in the beginning, the Elohim, which is plural of Eloha, created the heavens and the earth, full stop. Then, in Genesis 1:2, it says, and the earth was without form, comma, and void, which gives the reader the impression that God created the world as an uninhabitable place. That is wrong. So if I came to visit you and when I got there, you were quite healthy, you were quite happy, everything was good. But when I left, you were ill. You became ill while I was there. Well, the word was in the Bible, in the original text, is became, came to pass. So this is not a lie, because everything in this world is a deception. It's not a lie, it's a deception. If you go to Jeremiah 4:23 to 28, is the only place in the Bible that you can read, and the earth was without form and comma and void. It's the only other place in the Bible. Then it goes on to say that the cities trembled, the birds of the heavens had fled, there was no man. Whoa, hang on a minute. But man wasn't created until Genesis 1:27. So why are we talking about man in Genesis 1:2? Because the first creation in the Bible in Genesis 1:27 was not the first creation of human beings. We have elongated skulls, we have titans, we have giants, we have all these different races of people that allegedly lived on this earth before the Genesis 1:27 creation.
Is that the problem that you have when they keep making all the Bibles and keep transferring all this text over and changing it into English, that we've lost the real meaning of it?
Yes. But the other thing that people don't realize is that the creation of man, in the first creation of man in the Bible, was Genesis 1:27. That gives us the numbers 1, 2, 7. Pearl Harbor, 12/7, was not the Japanese. December the 7th, 12/7. The American government did that in order to get themselves involved in World War II. When you look at September 11th, 2001, the buildings that came down were buildings 1, 2, and 7. It's all connected to the first creation in the Bible. Now, what we need to do is we need to delete from our thoughts the meaning of the word God. Right? Forget it. Forget the word God and what you think it means. Because in Genesis 1:27, the Elohim said, "Let us make man in our own image and after our likeness." So they created, quote unquote, gods in Genesis 1:27. Fast forward to Genesis 2, and the God, the Lord God, in other words, a being from the first creation, created Adam and Eve. Now, when you look at the Popol Vuh, which is Mexican, when you look at the Sumerian creation texts, the Lord God of the Bible, in the Popol Vuh, is called Samyaza. Samyaza said, "I will create a primitive, full stop. Man shall be his name. I will create a primitive man in order to toil the soil, till the soil, so that the gods can have their ease." Adam was a tiller of the soil. So was Cain. So one of the gods from the first creation created the second creation, which was Adam and Eve. The serpent was from the first creation, because the first creation said, the Elohim said, "You can eat from every tree, every herb shall be for meat. Meat in those days meant food. So once Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, she understood that basically what had been done to Adam and Eve. That's why they were kicked out. They basically understood the difference between good and evil. Religion teaches us that we are born with original sin. That is not true, but it is true. Because we were created. Adam and Eve, the creation of Adam and Eve was the first sin, was original sin.
So basically, we've got everything we've got everything wrong. Then you're basically saying.
Well, no, we've been deceived. The creation of Adam and Eve was original sin. Are we part of original sin? Yes, because we inhabit the bodies, the avatar that was created in the garden. So Adam and Eve were kicked out so they wouldn't tell anybody else. Now, you fast forward to Genesis 6, verse 2, and it states, the sons of the Elohim, aka first creation.
Right. He's back! I thought we'd lost you, Nigel.
We had a baby.
Carry on. We can hear you. Carry on.
Right. So if I met a Chinese woman and we had a baby, that baby would be a hybrid. Would be half Western and half Chinese, right?
Right.
So the same thing happened between the first creation in Genesis 1:27 and the second creation in Genesis 2. And that is spoken about in Genesis 6:2. So basically what happened, you had the first creation, which were essentially connected to the quote unquote divine, and you have the second creation, which were basically created slaves. Now, in the second creation, it says that God would be from the first creation, created man from the dust of the ground, blew breath into his nostrils, and man became a living soul. So this evil entity, the God of the Bible, created not only man, not only flesh and blood, but he also created the soul. The soul and the spirit are not the same. The spirit is connected to light. This is why we are enlightened.
Can I ask you something? You said evil.
Yeah, that was the creation of evil. Adam and Eve there was no evil in the world until the creation of Adam and Eve. There was no evil in the world until the creation of Adam and Eve.
Right.
So what we've now got, we've got the Adam and Eve creation, who admittedly, by the God of the Bible, said, I will create a primitive man so he can be of service to the gods. This is also seen in the Enki and Enlil story, where man was created as a slave race, which is what the powers that shouldn't be want us to be right now, right? Slaves.
Here's something I've only just realised, that Adam was married twice.
Well, most of that is bullshit, right? Most of that is crap. So if we stick to the point, what we've now got is the Jesus figure. Now, Jesus, the way that we're taught, never existed in the way that we're taught. There was no J in the English language until the 16th century. I've read Masonic papers from the 15th, 16th, 17th century that talk about Jerusalem as Higher Jerusalem. It's spelled with a H. Jose in Spanish is spelled with a J. Juan in Spanish is spelled with a J. So if we substitute the J in Jesus for the H, it becomes Jesus or he's us. So according to a lot of the ancient texts,
you're making it. I did read your email stuff because obviously that was in there, but you're making it much easier.
But according to a lot of the ancient texts, the original land was Lemuria. We've all heard of Lemuria. So a whole army of creation one, Jesus, he's us, was sent out all over this flat realm in order to find the hybrids, in order to seek out the humans, the people who were of quote unquote mixed race. They were the product of the first and second biblical creation. So when the biblical Jesus was asked, how shall we know them? He said, you shall know them by their fruits, their actions, their deeds, their words. This is why and how the biblical Jesus was able to go all over the world at the same time. Now, what the biblical Jesus was doing was trying to wake people up. He was trying to, or they were trying to seek out the humans who were hybrids, essentially hybrids. They were the ones that had got the mother and father from the first creation and the second creation, in order to let them know that you have the spark of divinity. Now, that manifests itself right to today. We see people walking around with masks, begging for the vaccine. They are the Adam and Eve descendants. We see people who are awakening because those people have the spark of divinity. The return of Jesus, the return of the Christ, is the return of the Christ consciousness. We, you and I, have that divine spark, and we are trying our best to awaken people who also have that spark. They are the descendants of the hybrids. They are the descendants of the first creation, the divine creation, and the second creation, which is not divine. So all the people that you see around you, your family and your friends that are wearing masks and begging for the vaccine, do not have the spark of divinity. They do not have that connection to the first creation.
Can I ask you something?
Or the first biblical creation.
Can I ask you something? You were saying about which creation you come from. If you're an empath, which creation do you come from if you're an empath?
If you're an empath, you come from the first creation. Now, those people who are really, really, really connected to the first creation, most of them are Aborigines. They are what we would call ascended masters or tribal leaders in the Aboriginal communities. They have a really, really strong connection to the first biblical creation.
But there's empaths all over the world, isn't there?
Yep. And this is why they want to bring in this vaccine nonsense, because they don't want more empaths. They don't want more star seeds. They don't want more souls or spirits with the divine connection.
That's sick, isn't it? That's just sick.
Yep. But this is not our realm. This is the realm of Satan. And people like me and
Is it
you and
purgatory
many,
here?
many
Is it
others.
purgatory?
Huh?
I call it the one I'm
Say
thinking.
again?
I wondered whether it was purgatory here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But we decided, we made a conscious decision to come into this realm in order to do what the biblical Jesus was trying to do, which is basically wake people up.
That's what
That
an
was
empath
the
is then.
Jesus mission. That was the Jesus purpose. That was the Jesus, he's us mission in the Bible, was trying to wake people up, which is what people like myself and you are trying to do right
Is that
now.
why our path's hard here? Because it is hard being an empath, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You make me, you know,
But
with your
then when
words,
you want to get into the
they just make me
Mandela
want to
effect,
cry.
yeah, I do often. But when you want to get into the Mandela effect, what basically happened with the Mandela effect was, I've told you this in emails, I don't want to use this phrase, but I don't know what other phrase to use. Divine intervention. When I was 11 years old, I started, I'm from Coventry, Karen. I grew up in Coventry. When I was 11 years old, I started high school. I was put into a class, and the guy that sat next to me, his name was Nigel too. And his surname began with the letter V. My surname begins with the letter W. And we hijacked the VW logo, because when we grew up, we were gonna conquer the world. We were gonna set up our company, Vines Worsley. We were gonna do this, that, and the other. And the VW logo, we bastardized that. We took that, and it was on all our textbooks. It was on the back of the bike sheds in the 1970s. And there was no gap between the V and the W. 40 years later, I find out that there's always been a gap between the V and the W. No. And that essentially was what woke me up. From there, I went on to the flat earth. And then, since the last 4 years, I have probably been spending close to 100 hours a week, and I'm not exaggerating, on research. I've written 3 books. They're all free. You can go and read them. Countless PowerPoints, PPTs, and just never-ending research. I have studied.
Say something. I knew as a little girl that I was here for something. I just did. It's about 7.
Say that again.
When I was a little girl, I just knew I was here for something.
Oh, look, when I was a kid, I was called a rebel by my parents, my teachers, religion. I remember going to church when I was 11 years old, and the vicar said, "Let's pray." And all these people were getting on their knees and holding their hands together. And I'm sitting there with my arms crossed thinking, what the fuck are you idiots doing? I was 11 years old. And I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the church because I asked too many questions.
Would you just, I know you've already explained it, but people don't mind listening twice. So if you're an empath, you come from the first lot, the gods.
Yeah. Yeah, but it wasn't the first. This is the thing. This is what people have got to understand. The first creation in the Bible was not the first creation of human beings. Because prior to that, we have the Egyptians with the elongated skulls, we have the giants, we have the titans. we had these guys that were like 12 miles high and all this nonsense. So the biblical first creation was not the first creation of people. It's only the biblical first creation.
Right.
If that makes sense.
What happens if an empath's given birth to you said like we were different races. What happens if I've given birth or my parents are the third ones, the ones that are going to get injected, the sheeple people, the whatever you want to call them? I call them nuts. Do you know what they are, Nigel? They're narcissists now. That's what they are.
Right now, there are actually four species of human beings. You've got the first creation, Genesis 1:27, which would be Aboriginal elders, people who have got the divine spark big time. You've got the second creation, which are Adam and Eve. These are the mask-wearing, vaccinating, demanding sheeple. Then you have the third creation, which is the hybrids, which are people like you, me, and pretty much everybody else listening to this.
Oh, so we're hybrids then?
Right now.
We're hybrids.
Right?
Sorry. First of all, I thought you said we were the God ones, but we're not. We're hybrids.
No, the first creation were gods. The second creation were primitive. The third creation, which is hybrids, we've got the spark of divinity, but we've also got original sin. Because original sin was the creation of Adam and Eve. So we've got both. Then you have the fourth tribe, which are Atlanteans. When Atlantis sank in what we know as the 15th century, because that's when it happened, was beyond Antarctica. I'll send you a picture. I'll send you a map. Was beyond Antarctica, and the Atlantean people, even Helena Blavatsky described the Atlantean people as being evil. They infiltrated, they invaded this realm in the 15th century, and they now, or their offspring, are the people who are ruling the world today. The Hillary Clintons, the George Soros, and the Bill Gates, and all the scum that are ruling us today, they are descended from Atlanteans, the 13 bloodlines, the Queen, all the royalty. They are all descended from the.
Are they the Aryans?
They are from Atlantis, yeah. They are from Atlantis.
Right.
Yeah. And I know that you're taking an interest in Tartaria and the mud flood and so on and so forth. It was all caused by the Atlanteans. It was done deliberately or maybe accidentally, but it was done by their technology. They lost their technology when Atlantis sunk, but they still had it in their heads. So when they came into this realm, all they had to do was recreate it, mix it with Tartarian technology, and that was what created the mud flood in 1811, 1812.
Yeah, that's what I think it happened back then. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I always mention the 1830s.
All that has been conveniently covered up by the bullshit Napoleonic Wars. The Napoleonic Wars are all complete nonsense. That was the takedown of Tartaria, which was the mud flood.
Yes, we were talking about this last night because someone's come to me about Tartaria, and that's what I was saying, that I've realised now that because Napoleon, then we made this big exodus to America, then they put us in concentration camps and took our children. Hitler was the same.
Yeah.
He took our children. He was part of it and destroying the Tartaria building. But that's why I suddenly said said, well, it couldn't be true with Napoleon. He had to be fighting the Tartarians, not us. Yeah, it makes sense now. That's what I said. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So the mud flood happened in 1811, 1812, which was caused by the merging of Tartarian technology with Atlantean technology, which is why over the last 100 years, our technology, or the technology that we know today, has advanced so quickly. 30 years ago.
I think they're going to do the same thing, personally. I think man thinks that it's God, and the same thing will happen again. That's what I see happening.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about us, do they? We're just collateral.
This is why technology has, quote unquote, advanced so quickly over the last 30, 40, 50 years. Because the Atlanteans had got got their technology in their head, right? They brought it with them, but they didn't actually bring the technological devices because they were all.
You know what they say about Napoleon as well? They say that actually Napoleon's a book, not a person. I've heard that before.
Napoleon never existed. Napoleon's all bullshit. If you look at pictures of Napoleon, he's got the hidden hand shoved in his fucking jacket because he never existed. It's all nonsense, all bullshit. The Napoleon narrative was literally created in order to cover up the mud flood, in order to hide the mud flood and bury Tartaria. The Tartarian people...
Can I ask you something before you just move on? When you said Tartaria, last night when we were having a hangout about Tartaria, the person there said that he didn't think Tartaria was very nice.
No. Tartaria was what we would call utopia. You've got... go and look at the Hungarian parliament. Go and look at the Duomo Cathedral in Milan, in Italy. Go and look at even the Houses of Parliament. We could not build this shit today, right? We could not build it. The cost would be prohibitive, for one.
He's back. Okay. That's the second time we've lost you. Carry on, yeah, you were saying?
Yeah. So, evil did not exist during the time of Tartaria. Evil did not exist until the creation of Adam and Eve. So, all this 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 year bollocks is complete bollocks.
Can I ask you something? What happens if, you feel like you're an empath, but like I said, you've given birth to narcissist, or your parents are narcissists? How does that happen then?
My ex-wife was born with 6 fingers and 6 toes, and so were many of her siblings. She was one of 8. Her first child was born with 6 toes or 6 fingers, I can't remember. So there's still a connection to the old race of people, whether they're evil or whatever. I mean, my ex-wife, I would consider her to be pure evil. But I couldn't see it while I was married to her. Now, looking back, I see her as being
you've got to, I think with an empath, you have to find another empath. I've not been that lucky either, by the way, but you need another empath, because these people, when you come out of things, they're evil, like my last boyfriend, evil.
Yeah. I mean, I've been single now since 2014. And actually, I'm quite happily single. Because I'm really...
Yeah, that's because we don't want the karma, do we? That's what it is. We don't want this karma.
No. But I would really struggle to find a partner, and look, I'm not hitting on you, but I would really struggle to find a partner like you, insofar as
Well,
we are on the
empaths have this
same
problem.
page.
Empaths seem to find these narcissists.
Yeah, yeah. If I could find a
I
partner,
mean, they say, well, maybe you're attracting it, but I don't think we are. I just think, well, they come to us. They don't, hey, I'm a narcissist. Yeah. I'm a narcissist and I'm not very happy inside.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, the once you get to the stage that we're at when it comes to the awakening, I want to find a partner like you, and you want to find a partner like me, because we can communicate on the same level. But
Yeah,
the
it's a
chances of me,
spiritual level, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
spiritual level.
the chances of me finding a partner like you and you finding a partner like me are just so remote that we would rather stay single than.
Do you know what I think we call it? We can call it looking for your twin soul. That's what it is.
Well, you know, there's the old Greek mythology that Zeus carved man and woman in half. And this again relates to the Adam and Eve story, that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. But the Zeus story basically says this is why we're looking for our other half. We're looking for our soulmate. We're looking for our other half.
The way I see it is, the way I'll tell you that, this is what I've learned. You can have loads of soulmates. They're your family, but you have only one twin soul. That's your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
and
just
that
one
is
of those.
The one that we, yeah, that is the one, or the person that we basically spend our lives trying to seek out, which is why we have so many failed relationships. You know, I was with my ex-wife for like 29 years.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because people like my friend Amy, she's an empath. She's decided to stay on her own because cannot take this pain from other people.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Totally right.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I found you, Nigel. Or so glad you found me, or you wrote to me. No, I wrote to you, didn't I? There you go. We were destined to meet.
Yeah. What I'm basically saying is that we are destined to meet our quote unquote soulmate, but the chances of meeting our soulmate are like 1 in a billion.
Twin soul, twin soul.
Yeah.
That's like the other part of you. But
what's the other word?
You're not in military with each other. It's a spirit. You're on the same spiritual path as them. That's your twin soul.
Look, I'll tell you where it gets so easy, and we make it complicated. Let me put it this way, right? You're a girl, I'm a guy. So if I was to say to you, Karen, I don't want to sleep with you, but I want to wake up with you. Now you think of the difference. Sleeping with someone usually means to have sex with someone. But if I was to say to you, I don't want to sleep with you, in other words, I'm not interested in having sex with you, but I want to wake up with you, that has a completely different connotation to what most people believe or what most people think. What is more important, sleeping together or waking up together? You being the first person that I see when I wake up, and me being the first person that you see when you wake up, is far more important than getting in the sack together and having sex. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But that is what most people don't understand. You know, it's all about sex, because that's what we're ingrained with. That's what we're taught about from a very, very early age. But when you flip it and you say, this is not about having sex with you, this is about waking up with you first thing in the morning, then it has a completely different meaning. And what I've done throughout my research over the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm literally doing 100 hours a week. As I say, I've written 3 books. My book number 4 should have come out in February this year, but because of the virus and the bullshit and the nonsense that's all going on, that's been obviously postponed. But essentially, everything in this realm is upside down. Everything is flipped. Everything.
Yeah, it feels like it.
All of it. All of it is flipped upside down.
Yeah, because it's all a lie.
Everything. Yeah.
It's all a lie.
Well, no, it's all a deception.
We talked to Claudio, and he's saying that the stars have a real effect on us, and this is about awakening. This Lyris is actually about us waking up.
Well, look, when we go back to the Mandela effect, and I sent you my, I emailed you my writings on that.
Yeah, I did read it. I did read it.
You did read it. Okay, good.
Yes.
So essentially, the Mandela effect was a kick up the arse. It was a wake-up call, and some people saw it, and other people saw it and basically ignored it. You know, even my own brother.
Well, the thing is, there's one thing, right? I remember being in my mum's kitchen when they announced Mandela had died, and that's really strange because his name is Mandela. And then basically we just forget about it with life, and then he became, so that one, he died and Willie Mandela got everything. And then when he was president, he divorced her and she got nothing, and she was evil.
Yeah. Yeah. But like even my brother, who's totally asleep, will admit to me that the Monopoly man had a monocle when we were kids. Like me and my brother, my sister, my parents, we used to play Monopoly. The Monopoly man had a monocle. So now he doesn't have a monocle. And my brother just goes, well, yeah, well, so what? What does it matter? It's the same as the flat earth. People will say, well, what does it matter if we live on a flat earth or a globe? It doesn't matter. Well, actually, it proves creation. So what you've got essentially is the sleeping sheeple that for a certain point they acknowledge that it's true, but they won't see beyond the truth. People like you and I, we go beyond the truth and we go, well, hang on a minute. Whoa.
Some people talk the talk. Some people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
Yeah, absolutely. They talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk. And this is what I contend and what I assert is the difference between the first biblical creation and the second biblical creation. The second biblical creation are the sheeple. They are the mask-wearing, vaccination-demanding fucking morons. Whereas if we did not have that spark of divinity, which came from the first creation, whoever it was that created the first creation, if we did not have that spark of divinity, we would not be able to be woken up. It wouldn't have happened to us. And this is the crux.
Can I tell you one thing, fellas? That to be that, you have to know who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And that's what all these sheeple don't realise.
Yeah.
You live inside out, not outside in. I've been talking about this last couple of days, but you live inside out. And these people don't wake up.
No, but they don't wake up, Karen, because they can't wake up. These people are inherently connected to the Adam and Eve creation. People like you and I and many, many others that are able to be awakened, whatever it was that caused your awakening. I've told you what caused mine, but whatever it was that caused your awakening means that you are connected to the first biblical creation. You and I are a product of the hybrid. Genesis 6:2. The sons of the Elohim saw that the daughters of Adam were fair and took them for their wives. So you've got the first and the second creation getting together, having children, half. They have the spark of divinity, which people like you and I.
So how come like I actually think my parents are narcissists. My brother is, but I'm not.
Well, this is really nothing
Why
to
is
do
it? Why
with
is it so
narcissism.
sporadic?
This isn't anything to do with narcissism. This is just basically having the connection, being a descendant of, or being a hybrid, for want of a better word, of the first and second creation. If you're not a hybrid, if you don't have that connection to the first creation, then you are a sheeple. You are a mask-wearing, vaccine-demanding fucking idiot. If you have the connection to the first creation, or the first biblical
Can I ask you
creation.
something? Are we marked?
Yeah.
Do we have it on our hands?
Really easy.
Cool. We are having such problems. We're having such problems with this hangout. I've had to rejoin. This is ridiculous. But anyway, back on now.
All right. So essentially, the first biblical creation was not the first creation of human beings. Right? Before us, we had the elongated
One second.
skulls.
Well, that's it. It's all right. We're all right now.
Okay.
Oh, dearie me.
Before
Yes,
us,
because
we
we come
had
back
the
off.
elongated skulls, we had the 6 fingers and toes, we had the giants, we had all sorts. And when you read Jeremiah 4, you will understand that essentially creation, whatever was here at that time, was basically wiped out, and then it was started again. So what the Bible describes as the first creation in Genesis 1:27 was not actually the first human beings, but we who are awakened are connected to that creation, that Genesis 1:27 creation.
Yeah, I always felt as a person that, you know, a lot of it it's divine. It comes from divine, whatever you want to call that. A lot of the things that come into
we don't know what or who the Elohim were. In Genesis 1:1, in the beginning the Elohim created the heavens, plural, and the earth. Now, did they create a simulation? Did they create a copy of the real, the true earth? We don't know. We don't know who the Elohim were, but the Elohim created man, or the first biblical humankind, in Genesis 1:27. One of those creators, or one of those, not creators, but the creation created man in Adam and Eve in Genesis 2. Then in Genesis 6, the first creation and the second creation, they got together and they fucked each other and they created children who
It sounds like a horrible experiment.
Yeah, complete experiment.
Sounds like a horrible experiment, though.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then look, you can go down the just go to any search engine and go or do a search for the freaks of the 18th and 19th century, the circus freaks. So yeah, the whole thing is an experiment. But the fact remains that the first biblical creation and the second biblical creation, which is Adam and Eve, they got together, they had kids, they created a hybrid in the same way that, as I said earlier, if I met a Chinese girl and we had a baby, that baby would be a hybrid, half Western and half Chinese.
If you're awake.
If you're awake, then you have that spark of divinity. You're a hybrid. You have the connection to the first biblical creation. It really is that simple. If you're not awake and you're a mask-wearing fucking idiot begging for the vaccine, then you are simply connected solely to the Adam and Eve creation. It really is that simple.
Wow.
Yeah, it is wow. It is wow.
So what do you think it is, like, where we're picked out, like I said, like most of my family, half my children, most of my husbands? I know you said narcissist, not the word, but those are the people who aren't awake, who think of themselves, who don't care about you. That's basically it. And they've kind of been programmed, I think, through that television.
My own son has not spoken to me for 2 years, right? He doesn't want to know. My ex-wife is, although she's a nurse and she knows that the virus is complete bollocks, but apart from that, she's totally asleep. The only person that I can connect with is my daughter, and she's like 32, 33 years old right now. And she like gets it only because her boyfriend also gets it. So she's like, "Oh, Dad, fucking hell, yeah, you are so spot on with all this." But nobody else gets it. My brother doesn't get it. My sister-in-law doesn't get it. They don't reply to my emails anymore. But this, and this proves to me that the whole thing is basically a personal journey. It's personal. It's a personal journey. And
Thing is, these people, right? These people they just don't connect at all. They don't see any further than their feet. Whereas me, when people are painting, like for instance Diana and things like this, 9/11, I feel it. I feel the world's pain.
Yeah. But you see, this is why, I mean, I've got two really, really good friends here in China.
Also, Nigel, I'm psychic as well. So I struggle. They're supposed to be gifts, but they don't seem to fit into this world here, being a psychic and being empath.
I've got two really, really good friends here in China who are both from the UK. They are both totally awake, and yet we have never met in person. We only talk on social media, email, or whatever. And they get it. They totally, totally get whatever I lay down, they pick up. And, oh my God, no, you're doing it again. You're fucking blowing my mind. But they get it. And it's the same with people like you and I. We've never met in person. We probably never will meet in person. But we're on the same page. We're on the same wavelength. We know what we are talking about and we agree with each other. Whether or not you want to call this the 144,000, the biblical 144,000, or whatever, it really doesn't matter. The fact is that people like you and I are coming together.
I don't know what it is. Empaths, we can feel it even over the hangout, can't we?
Yeah.
We can feel each other's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt from Quantum of Conscience, we email each other regularly. We've never met each other, but we are totally on the same page. So essentially, what I see is that the internet has been, or likely to be, their biggest fuck up. When I say they, I mean the controllers, because it's actually
because they
allowed
gave us a way to communicate. Because they gave us the way to communicate.
Yeah. It's allowed people like you and I, just as an example, to come together on a hangout, and we're essentially talking the same stuff. We're talking the same shit. We're talking the same language. We know where each other's coming from, but you know, in real life.
Can I tell you something else as well? I've been telling people that I couldn't understand, like, you're in China, we've got no time delay whatsoever. And I felt that they were using old technology. And people said, oh, no, they've laid wires under the sea. But it's not. We're using old technology. And they've vamped it up for us to talk. Because this is Tartarian or something.
What you might find interesting is that the Chinese version of Fauci or Hancock, you know, the head of the medical side of it, has basically said China will not be in a second lockdown. There will not be a second wave. It ain't gonna happen. That was yesterday.
So what's that about then? What's that about then?
Because they know it's all bullshit. And they know that the Chinese people know it's bullshit. So it ain't gonna happen. It's not happening here. You know, you've got this bullshit nonsense.
We're luckily talking, but you know how, you know, even on this platform, you know, they don't like us talking like this because we've got to not say that it's not real, the virus. We've got to say it's real.
Well, I've called it the
it's not
virus since January, since I've still got it on my phone, January 28th of this year. I called it out as being complete bullshit, and I've still got the message.
The first day, I was one of the first channels to report this because I knew it wasn't real.
Well, it's not. This is about the takedown of the West. You know, I'm probably quite lucky. I'm probably in the safest place in the world right now, in China. They did what they were instructed to do by the WHO back in January. And you've got to remember that it was all called out in China during the Chinese New Year, where
I thought they all worked together, to be honest. I thought they all worked together, basically, with this stupid harp. Anybody that's got harp is one of them.
The whole country was closed down. The whole country closes down every year.
They all work together, though. They all work together, these countries. Russia, America, you name it, they're all together.
Yeah, because they're all controlled by the WHO and the World Economic Forum.
Is that why Trump's going China disease, China?
Yeah.
When China,
Yeah. But China was closed down during a period of time when it would be closed down anyway, because everybody goes home. And of course, this year is the year of in China is the year of the rat, and the rat is connected to plague. So the whole thing was orchestrated exactly. But it didn't. So
you're saying that China's not in on it?
Well, China just did as it was told, but the timing was during the period of China, or the period in China when it would be closed anyway.
Because obviously,
So,
like they put the figures out. I don't know why they put them out, but they put, I remember that Trump was talking and he put China on 0.04 or something when we were on 12, 15% and America were on 12. And then they said, oh, they're lying about their figures.
Yeah. But they just did as they were told by the WHO.
Right.
Yeah. They just did as they were told by look, the World Health Organization essentially orchestrated the whole event. But here in China, it was done during the period where China was going to be closed anyway.
Is this to do with their new? Is this to do with their new year and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So because everybody
we had
goes
horrible
home.
Stories, didn't we? That people were dying. They were shoved on the roads. They were welding people into buildings.
It was all bullshit. It was all nonsense. It was all bullshit.
So is it kind of a mental war on China at the moment then?
Yeah. The whole thing is a mental war. The whole thing is a total deception. But what I'm kind of saying is that the whole thing started in China during the period of time where China was going to be closed anyway. Right? It was the Lunar New Year, where factories close, all the workers go home, they all go and meet their families for a couple of weeks.
Right, so they use that time to lie. They use that time to explain something that wasn't real.
Yeah. So the economic impact on China essentially was zero, was nothing. It did not impact China in any way, shape, or form when it comes to the economy. The Chinese economy was not impacted at all.
So for anybody that's awake then, for anybody that's awake and is an empath, what do you suggest for people who are empaths and awake?
What do I suggest? That is a really, really good question. People have got to see it for what it is. They've got to stop complying. They've got to stop wearing masks. They've got to get the lockdown. They've just basically got to go against everything that Western governments are telling them that they should do. They don't need to protest. They don't need to protest because protests do nothing. They've just got to go with non-compliance. They really do. I work in a school, right? I'm an English teacher in a high school. There are 6,000 students in my high school. 6,000. Nobody is wearing a mask. Nobody is social distancing. It's all business as usual.
I think Japan's quite close because I know someone who lives in Japan and he says it's quite low key there in Japan.
Yeah, Japan's completely different. If you look at need input, I mean, he's an English teacher in Japan and he's quit, and now he's been asked to go back. But yeah, I mean, I can only speak from my own experiences, and there's 5,900 kids in my school. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody is social distancing. Nobody gives a flying fuck about this so-called COVID-19. Nobody cares. It just does not exist. But you go to the supermarket and they're all wearing masks. I don't.
I know. I went out to the shop today and I walked past this woman and she said, "Get away from me." And then I was buying something at the till, and then I just said, "Oh, I bet you'll be having the injection then." And she
Yeah.
said, have some respect, have some respect. And I was like, oh, they're so angry and fearful, these people.
Well, these people, they are direct descendants of the Adam and Eve. They don't have the spark of
There's a lot
divinity
more of them, though,
from.
Nigel. Nigel, there's a lot
Yeah,
more of them.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But they don't have the spark of divinity that you and I have from the first biblical creation.
So what do you suggest?
They
Because
don't have.
there are people that come into this channel who are empaths and people who are awake. So what do we suggest
Yeah.
for them? Just to keep
Well,
waking up?
look, basically, when you look at the return, the biblical return of the Christ, the return of Jesus, if you are awake, if you have been awakened, you already have the return of the Christ. Because the return of the Christ is simply the return of the Christ consciousness.
So what? We're the
That's
return then?
if you are awake, Karen, you have already experienced the return of Jesus, the return of the Christ. People that are wearing masks, people that are begging for the vaccine, they have not and will not ever experience the return of the Christ. This is not
You mean
some
because
fucking
this
dead
is a
guy
great
on
big
a
wake?
stick.
You mean this is a great big waking up right now? If you don't get it now, you never will.
Yeah, yeah. We're not talking about the return of some dead guy on a stick. We're talking about the whole army of Jesus going out throughout the world trying to find the hybrids and letting them know that they have the spark of divinity within them. Know ye not ye are gods? That was a quote attributed to the biblical Jesus. The kingdom of God is within you. What the fuck are you doing? Is basically what the biblical Jesus was saying. Know ye not ye are gods? Question mark. Don't you know? Don't you know who, what created you? Creation number 1, Genesis 1:27. They were created divine. The Genesis 2, Adam and Eve, were the primitive man. But the first creation and the second creation got together, Genesis 6:2, and they screwed each other and they had kids. Those kids were hybrids. Know ye not ye are gods? The kingdom of God is within you. It's all there. This is not me. This is not Nigel talking. This is the text telling you what actually
Can I
happened.
ask you something? Do empaths frighten the other people?
Yes.
Because this is what's happened with my ex-boyfriend. You know, I put him as a narcissist because he's just concerned about himself. But I just think that we've got too much to say and they don't like it.
Yeah. Well, they're scared. They're scared of it. I've got a mate. I've got a really good friend that I met in 1982. So what's that? 38 years ago. And I love the guy to bits. And he'll occasionally send me an email and go, "Hey Nige, how are you? Are you still chasing unicorns and rainbows?" He just doesn't get it, and he never ever will. Because he is part of or connected to the Adam and Eve, the primitive. He has no connection to the biblical Genesis 1:27, the Elohim creation of man, the divine creation.
So if you're an empath and you're married to someone who's not, what do you suggest for those people then?
Well, I'm not married anymore. I mean, I got divorced. I split up from my wife in 2013, 7 years ago, and I actually couldn't see myself getting together or being married to a person who doesn't get it. So I'm actually quite happy living alone, being single. I don't want to be married to a sheeple. I don't want to have to go through that pain. I don't want to have to go through that.
Yeah, because if you're an empath, if you're not an empath, you might not get it. But if you're married to someone who isn't more like you, it's really painful spiritually, mentally, and emotionally being with that person.
I don't think it's more painful, Karen. I think it's actually easier because you can relate to me, I can relate to you. We're both on the same wavelength. So I think life would be much easier than it would be if we were married to a sheeple. That's just my opinion. That's just the way that I look at it.
I didn't hear. Yeah, I'm here, but what it was is my phone went. So I didn't really hear you. Can you? On the computer, we'll hear it, but I didn't hear it. Can you say that again?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if somebody like me was married to somebody like you, where we would have a lot in common, we would be able to talk to each other on the same level, is far better than being married to a sheeple that can't see what we can see. It would be too hard. It would be too difficult.
Yeah, that's why I've been married a few times and ended up on my own because it's
Yeah,
almost
me too. I've been married.
I
I've
can't
been
be with
married
someone
twice.
who's not more like me. And then when I meet this flat earther and I thought, oh, I'm with someone more, still wasn't with someone like me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been married twice, divorced twice. I've been single now for 7 years.
That's what I was before
And
I
I'm
met
quite
him.
happy.
Because I can't. I was on my own for quite a few years before I met my last boyfriend, but I can't be with someone who's not more like me spiritually. I can't.
No, I can't
Struggle.
either.
Because we're
I
best
can't
basically
either.
we're just playing their game all the time. It's all about them. You know, I need more than that.
I actually think, and this is a hard pill to swallow. But I actually think that people like you and I, we're probably going to spend the rest of our lives single or alone, even though we've got kids and so on and so forth, because we can't tolerate, we can't be with another person who's not on the same wavelength that we are, if that makes sense.
No, it's Amy has decided to be on her own because she doesn't want it. And the thing is, I don't want to be on my own the rest of my life, but I can't.
Hey, look, I want to ask you something. It gets more and more complicated when it comes to relationships between a man and a woman, because the more awakened or the more awakened you become, the more difficult it is to form a relationship with another person, because they're just not on your wavelength. And when you get down to choosing to have a relationship with a man or a woman, depending on who you are, when you're in our realm of thinking, then yeah, you know, it gets more and more and more complicated and more difficult, because you're
Yeah, I did. I think her name was Doris Stokes, but I can't remember which person it
I
was.
remember
She said
Doris
basically
Stokes, yeah.
Well, there was three waves of people. She said the oldest wave were just sent here. And she said, imagine just being sent from source and landing here. The second wave is you and me. We're antennas. We're here to help people. But she did say a lot of people don't get married or don't want to be married because they don't want the karmic thing. And then she said the third generation is our children and they will save the world, whether that's true or not. But I did understand what she meant about the antenna parts.
Yeah.
We're antennas. We're here to help.
But you see, what I'm saying is, what I'm kind of saying is, and don't take this the wrong way. Please don't take this the wrong way. But people like you and I, we could have a happy relationship because we're on the same level. But if you had a relationship with a guy who's not on the same level, or I had a relationship with a girl who's not on the same level as you are, you're basically fighting an uphill battle. It's far easier for someone like yourself and me, if you and I lived in the same country and we got together and we fancied each other and we ended up having a relationship, it would be so much easier than trying to have a relationship with somebody who's not where we are. And I actually believe that that is not supposed to happen. You and I will never get together because it's not supposed to happen. Me and someone like you will never get together because it's not supposed to happen. You and someone like me will never get together because that is not supposed to happen. Not in this realm. It would be too easy.
I think we're a different army of people, aren't we?
We are. Oh, mate.
It is an army, isn't it? But we're a good army. We're a spiritual army.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't listen to empaths, do they? They don't listen.
No.
And you know what? I didn't realise now we're called super empaths now. Super empaths aren't these quiet little mouses who don't say anything. We have to shout and things nowadays. Because people just don't listen to us. That still doesn't mean we're empaths.
Well, yeah, you're right. You are so right.
Do you think we're the indigo children as well?
Yeah, quite possibly. But once you awaken, and you know, I sent you that Mandela effect with the Hello Clarice and the you know, all those explanations of the Mandela effect.
So basically, you've got to, if you're an empath, you've got to find another empath. There's no point unless you find someone like you. Not being horrible to anybody who's not an empath. I'm not being horrible, but you know, I've struggled like all my life to be with people because they're just nothing like me.
No.
You know what I mean, though, don't you? You know what I mean, don't you?
When I was at primary school, you know, and you start primary school from the age of 6 until 11, all my friends were girls. All of them, right? I had no male friends. All my friends were girls. And then when I went to secondary school at age 11, I went to an all-boys school in Coventry. So I couldn't make friends of girls. You know, they were all guys. My parents, my teachers, I got kicked out of school. I got expelled because I was a rebel. I would not subvert to authority or to what was taught to me as being authority. So I guess I always knew that there was something wrong with this fucking realm that we're born into. And then, you know, we become indoctrinated and we go through life and we try and find a partner. And but that's pretty much based on, you know, how beautiful you are and how handsome I am. Where in reality, it doesn't really matter. You know, since I've been in China now for 7 years, and I have met the most beautiful human beings. I don't care what they look like, Karen. I don't care how beautiful they look from the outside. I have met the most beautiful human beings.
Beauty comes from within. Beauty comes from within, doesn't it? For
Yes.
me, you know,
Yes.
when I'm looking, or if I'm looking for someone, I'm not so bothered about what they look like, because they become. Say you really like them, they become more beautiful anyway. It's not about looks; it's what's inside them.
Well, what we do as human beings, and
But
let's be honest, you know,
most people don't have anything to give in the first place. That's
right.
the issue. They have
That's
nothing
right.
to give you. They can't give
That's
anything
right.
of themselves to you.
I met a girl in Shanghai a few years ago, who was probably, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to put it in normal perspective. She was in her 30s. She would never, ever, ever get married, and she would never have kids. Because she was not pretty, she was not beautiful, she was just, well, she was everything that we as human beings don't want. Yet, at the same time, she was the number one most beautiful human being I have ever met in my life. She's Chinese, her English is off the charts, and she's now, and she has been for a long time, working in Japan in uh, uh, um, a company that deals with international trade. And she's so successful because her English is so good, her Chinese is so good, her Japanese is so good. But this girl's never going to get married. She's never going to have kids because she's not pretty. But she's the most beautiful human being I have ever met in my life, bar none. In my senior one class, I've got 11 girls, 5 of which are absolutely stunning, beautiful human beings. The other 6 are just NPCs. But I've got 5 girls in that class who are absolutely fucking just wonderful, beautiful human beings.
I know,
And
but beauty's much more than skin, isn't it? Because as we
yeah,
get older,
yeah,
we're going to lose our looks anyway. So you have to
yeah.
like the person that's inside.
But I feel quite happy. I feel quite privileged that I can tell. I'm talking about 14, 15-year-old girls. And I feel quite privileged that I'm awake enough that I can look at someone, I can talk to someone, and I can discern whether or not they are spiritual, whether or not they are a beautiful human being, or whether or not they're an NPC. In other words, whether or not they are part of the hybrid connection between Genesis, between the first and the second creation, or if they are just of the second creation. And the other 6 girls, they are certainly of the second creation because they are just NPCs. But the other 5 girls, they are just beautiful human beings. They are just off the fucking charts, wonderful, beautiful people. And I actually feel quite privileged. And to be honest with you, Karen, it's more difficult to discern this with the guys. I mean, I've got 34 kids in my
Can
new
I just
class, 11 girls, and 23 guys, but I can still spot the guys. you know, there are still a few guys in that class that I can go, yeah, who have that spark of divinity. But out of the 11 girls, 5, maybe 6. The jury's out on one of them, but certainly 5 of them, I can look at them and I can say, you have got the spark of divinity. You have got the spirit. You have got that spark of divinity that is so missing in the Adam and Eve creation, the primitive creation, that is just not there. That spark is not there. And it's absolutely mind-blowing to witness it and to be able
Can I ask you something? Can I ask you something?
Of course.
What happens to people who meet people like us and they don't want to wake up? Then what happens to those people? They just carry on their own path and whatever. What's it likely when you meet an empath?
It's not that they can't wake up. Sorry, it's not that they won't wake up. It's that they can't wake up. They are not connected to the biblical first creation. And when I say biblical first creation, this is not the first creation of human. It's not the first creation of people. We have the elongated skulls, we have the titans, we have the giants. No. The first biblical creation is not the first creation of people or human beings. But what I'm able to ascertain and what I'm able to see is the people in our realm, the people who are here now, that have the connection to the first creation, and those who are solely connected to the Adam and Eve creation, which are the mask-wearing sheeple, the people that we will never, ever, ever be able to wake up. The only people that we can wake up have got the spark of divinity. They are connected to the Genesis 1:27 creation. If you can't wake them up, they're Adam and Eve. That's it. They're primitive.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, if you're an empath, it's quite a lonely walk then.
Very, very lonely. Oh yeah, very lonely. Yeah.
We have been going for an hour and a half. Is there any, like, we probably, do you think we should wind up for the hangout? We can talk afterwards a bit. We can talk afterwards for a bit. But what advice do you give then for everybody coming? You've written these books. You've tried to explain it. You tried to explain this is the devil's playground.
Yeah.
What do we do then for those that are awake?
Okay. Let me put this, and I'm going to make this personal, but I don't want to make it personal, if that makes sense. People like you, being a girl, and people like me, being a guy, if we met in real life and you thought, oh yeah, oh yeah, and I thought that yeah, and we ended up having a relationship, we would have a lifelong relationship, right? Nothing would be able to destroy our relationship. We would be married forever. But what happens is that we meet somebody during our life that we think, oh yeah, he's quite hot or she's quite pretty or whatever. And we get married, but we've really got nothing in common. So eventually we get divorced. But when real people meet a real person, it goes beyond those boundaries. It goes beyond that. Because you can see what I can see, and I can see what you can see, and you and I would never, ever, ever get divorced. We would be together for forever. But for the most part, that doesn't happen because we are attracted by the outer person, and the outer person is not important. The inner, it's not what we are, it's who we are that is most important. And so this is why, I mean, like where I
Yeah, because
am now in
I've been
China.
told that, like when I hang out, when I've mentioned odd little bits before, they'll say, well, you attract these people, but I don't. And you don't know who people are. You give people a chance.
Well, we've got to give everybody a chance, right? Now, where I am in China, the divorce rate in China is off the charts, right? It really, really is off the charts. But Chinese people don't like whatever you've learned about China is forget it. It's the absolute opposite. China is
I imagine, I thought
utopia.
that. I thought that anyway. I just did.
China is utopia. But the biggest problem in China, let me explain this. Let me try and explain this to you. You're Chinese and you get married. You're pushed into getting married by your parents because your parents are retired, and they live with you. They live in the same
Yeah,
apartment.
they look after their families. The Turkish are like that. The
Right.
Turkish are like that. They look after their families.
Yeah. So now you and your husband, you've got to have a kid. You've got to have a child. And once you have a child, you and your husband can both go to work, and your parents or his parents will raise the child because you all live in the same household, right? So you can go to work and your husband can go to work. But the problem is
Yeah,
that,
because here
that once you become,
they've made sure they've broken families. They've broken families
right,
up here. We all live separate.
yeah,
We live miles away from each other.
well, yeah. But once you, as a girl,
Generally.
once you become pregnant, you're not pregnant, you're ill. The doctor will give you 1,000 or 10,000 tests, and your husband can't come near you until 3 months after the baby's born. So you're pushed into this relationship. Then you've got to have sex until you become pregnant, and once you become pregnant, you're not allowed to have sex for basically a year, because it will damage the baby. Now, with my ex-wife, we had 2 kids, and on both occasions, we made love the night before the kids were born, right? And I'm just being honest. But in China, that doesn't happen. So, matey boy, the husband, who can't have sex for a year with his wife, he goes out and he seeks his solitude somewhere else. Now, once the baby's born and you've got that child, if you get divorced, you are never, ever, ever going to get another Chinese guy that's going to take you on with a kid. So you get to that point in your relationship where your husband is probably fucking somebody else, because the doctor says that he can't fuck you.
Careful of the words here.
You find out and you blow him out, right? You say, okay, don't want to be with you anymore. You are now condemned to live your life as a single girl. I'm not going to come along and take you on with a couple of kids. But in the West, it's not a problem, right? If I met you and I fell in love with you and you've got 3 or 4 kids, well, who cares? Not a problem. It doesn't bother me. But in China, it's not going to happen with a Chinese person, a Chinese guy. So the only way that these Chinese women who are divorced with a kid are going to get any kind of, or going to have any kind of relationship is with a Westerner, someone like me, who would be prepared to take on. If I love you and you're Chinese and you've got a kid, well, who cares? You know, it's just, that's how we roll. So you're never ever going to have that connection again. So when we roll this back into the West, into Western civilization, you meet someone that you like, or you meet someone that you fancy or whatever, and yeah, you want to have sex with them or so on and so forth. And if they've got a couple of kids, well, yeah, you know, if I met you and I fell in love with you and you fell in love with me, well, you know, who cares how many kids you've got? But the problem is, once you become awakened and once you become knowing, and once you know the stuff that you and I know, then that whole scenario becomes even more difficult, because you're not just looking for someone that you fancy or someone that you like, and if she's got a couple of kids, well, who cares? But what you're looking for is so much deeper. You're looking for someone that's awake, and that is never, ever, ever going to happen here in China. It's never going to happen. So yeah, I could quite happily meet someone, some divorced woman who's got a kid, and I could be the answer to all her dreams because I'm prepared to marry her. Whereas no Chinese guy would be prepared to marry her because she's got a kid. But I'm not prepared to marry that person if she's a sheeple. If she's so fast asleep and doesn't understand what's going on, then the market, for want of a better word, the market from my perspective is minute. It's minuscule. It just isn't going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, do you think that maybe, because we've been going for an hour and 45 minutes, people only listen for so long, is my taking. Do you think that we could, in the future, come back and have another hangout?
Karen, we can do this every fucking day. I really don't mind. We can do this whenever you want to do it. Right?
Okay.
I'm locked out on my YouTube channel right now. I'm on a 14-day community guideline strike. So, you know, I can help you grow your channel. I can help you get back to where you were with 15,000 subs before you had your channel taken down. But people need to understand what I'm talking about. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of research. I am doing 100 hours of research a week and have been for the last 5 years. I know what I'm talking about. So sure, we can do this whenever you want to do it, girl. No problem.
Well, should we end this hangout? It's been amazing. At least you've explained a few things that I thought I already knew, but you've explained it anyway. And thank you so much for your explanation. I hope this has resonated with some people and understood that you're either a sheeple or you're awake.
I'm not a sheeple. I am by far not a sheeple. I used to be, but once I awoke, and it was the Mandela effect that awoke me, then I went into flat Earth, and I even mentioned in my first book that I ended up laying on the floor of my Chinese apartment, curled up in the fetal position, crying my fucking eyes out. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it. Because once I realised...
Crying isn't a sign of weakness, is it? That people think, you know, because you're sensitive or whatever it is, it's a sign of weakness. To those sheeple, it will be, but it's not.
No, I'm not ashamed of it, Karen. I was lying on the floor, curled up in the fetal position, crying my fucking eyes out. Once I realised that everything we've been taught is a deception or a lie. So yeah, we can do this every day. Like no problem. We can do this whenever you want to do this.
Well, I'm very glad that we communicated, Nigel, and I'm so glad that we had this hangout.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, well, shall we end this hangout, but we'll talk a little bit afterwards. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Nigel, thank you so much. And what's your book's called? The Devil's Playground.
Yeah, go to the website called icheckyoursoul.com. I don't have my own website, but if you go to icheckyoursoul.com, you will see on the right, you will see the Devil's Playground. Click on that and you can get all my books for free. You'll get my PPTs, PowerPoint presentations for free. It's all there. Okay, so icheckyoursoul.com and then click on the Devil's Playground. It's all there.
Okay.
It's all free.
Thank you so much for that, and hopefully people will go and have a look at that webpage, and hopefully this hangout has resonated with people.
I hope so.
Nigel, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, especially I like the bit where you're explaining, because obviously empaths, we're a different type of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nigel, thank you so much. Mwah. Chat room, thank you so much. Mwah.
You're welcome.
Okay, my darling.